Hello, hello. Welcome to the SEO Party podcast. I'm Timmy. We have Naveed producing, and joining us today is Andrew.
How's it
Andrew,
going, guys?
welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Wonderful. So now our very first question is, Andrew, who are you and what do you do?
Ah, man. Like all people who work on the internet, I always struggle to answer that question. But the reason that we met is because I am co-founder of a little product called MetaMonster. Um, so MetaMonster helps SEO agencies and consultants scale on-page optimizations with AI. So if you've ever played around with AirOps or GPT for Sheets or any of these automation tools that are out there, we're trying to find the sweet spot that keeps things simple to set up, easy to get going with AI, and um, do things like generate internal link suggestions, structured schema, metadata, but also like keep the quality as high as we can. So trying to find that balance between quality and simplicity. Yeah, we met out at Brighton and hit it off. I think we met at the SEO community party,
Mm-hmm.
and then heard you guys had a podcast, and you were kind enough to invite me on. So here I am.
Nice. So what did you think of Brighton, San Diego?
It was a blast. It was my first time. It was my first big SEO conference. My background, I've never actually worked as a professional SEO. I've always done SEO just for my own projects here and there. So I started off running a product design agency for 8 years, and then have worked more on the product and software side of things. Um, but was doing content marketing for my agency, and that's when I got into SEO. So um, I was new to the conference scene. It is big and a little overwhelming at times. There is a ton of people there. I think the best thing I did was volunteering for that party the
Mm-hmm.
first night, because it forced me to just stand at the door and say hey to everybody who walked in. And so
Interact
then
with
for the
people.
so then for the rest of the weekend, I didn't just feel totally lost, like in a sea of strangers.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like there were familiar faces bouncing around, um, and overall, I felt like um, people were super kind and welcoming, really friendly. Came out of the weekend with some new friends, which is kind of what I was hoping for, and the talks were all on a very similar track. I think it was. Uh, there's a lot of AI, and what do we do about it, and uh, conflicting opinions at times, which was interesting. But yeah, I mean, I think conferences, you go for the people more than anything else, and there were just tons of great people there, so I had a blast. What
What's
did you
your
guys think?
I mean, for us, it was fantastic. Obviously, we were exhibiting, right?
Yeah,
So, had some great conversations. But again, I was expecting there to be a lot more AI conversations and tools and what have you. And then I was right. There were so many. I'm kind of curious what your take is on that. I mean, I know it's, um, uh, I mean, I hate calling it a fad, right? But it's a, it's I see why people want to jump on the wagon,
hmm
right? There's absolutely a need for it, and um, and people, everybody wants to be first to the market, right? But
hmm
I think there's the discourse has been very disconnected for me. Like I find that everybody knows. I mean, yes, you have all these aggregation tools that are relatively doing the same thing,
yeah,
but and there's somewhat answers that are coming about right now. Like uh, but again, there's still this prevailing feeling that nobody knows what they're talking about. It's a shot in the dark, right? Um,
yep,
which is fine. But and I think uh, it's gonna beat out eventually. The serious ones are gonna stick around, and the ones who are doing something unique. But majority, I think, are it just feels like this mesh. that's there. So I don't know how you feel about that. Like, what's your because you're seeing what we're seeing as well, obviously. So.
Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah. So as far as like, I think I sort of heard two questions in there. One is, what's my take on optimizing for AI, like optimizing for showing up in ChatGPT, in Claude, and Perplexity in AI mode,
Mhm.
um, and then there's what's going to shake out in the market with these 5,000 AI visibility trackers that have popped up in the last 6 months. Where are those going to go? What's going to happen there? So I think if we start with like just optimizing for AI, the value, how do you do it, all this, I totally agree. I think it's still pretty murky. There's a lot of people jumping out with like, do this, but it's still a lot of correlation. And, we all learned in elementary school, middle school, correlation does not equal causation. And so, we're never going to be inside the models. So we have to use correlation to some degree to try to guess at what will work. But we need to be cautious about that and be aware of like, we're guessing here and not just proclaim that we've found the magic sauce. Um, I tend to be on the side of the camp that like, if you want to call it AEO, GEO, whatever, if it's like a branding thing to get more resources from your CEO, cool, great, do it. But I tend to be more in the camp of like, a lot of this stuff is still just the basics of good, strong SEO fundamentals. And like, really, the thing we can control more at this stage is still just showing up in search, because um, a lot of what gets missed in the talks about GEO, AEO, whatever, is we talk about optimizing for AI search. There's optimizing to show up in the models, like in the training data for the models, which is takes a long time. No one really knows how to do it. Best guess is like show up in you know big mainstream media outlets as much as you can, and like communities and stuff like that. But then there's agentic search, which is what most people are talking about, which is when the model runs a web search on Google's index or Bing's index, or ChatGPT has their own index, and then it picks from that list of links and then sort of gives the user an answer and summarizes those. And so you can try to do things to help to encourage the model to pick you out of the list. But first, you've got to show up in the list. And how do you show up in the list? It's just SEO. It's you're getting into Google's index, into Bing's index, so that when ChatGPT runs a search, you are in the list of results. And then you can start thinking about like, okay, how do I get ChatGPT to pick me out of that list of results for a citation? And I feel like that picking part is still a lot fuzzier. And so I think for most people, just focusing on showing up in the search. Now, there's like query fan out kind of stuff. So maybe the way we do keyword research expands and changes so that you try to show up for different searches than you used to try to show up for. I think there's some validity there for sure. I think a lot of this, like when I'm trying to think about what do I recommend to people, what do I want to do for my own marketing efforts, I think a lot of it, I try to just come back to how does the technology work? What's actually happening? What conclusions can we draw from that? And like focus on that first. And then like the correlation stuff of like, hey, we did these changes to 8 sites and it seemed to help, put a little less weight on that. So yeah, I tend to be more in the camp of like, stick to your fundamentals, write good content, think about what searches might be happening, whether it's from users or from, AI agents, and then like make sure your site is well structured. You've got, it's easily readable by bots and all of that. And then as far as like the visibility trackers, Man, I don't know what's going to happen with that market. It is crazy how many of them there are out there. I imagine it'll coalesce around a few and then end up being a feature in most SEO tools moving forward.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize that it's not like somebody made this fantastic tool has their own scrapers, and it's like running like it's they're all getting it's the same source that they're getting the data from.
Yeah.
It's the
The
interface.
visibility trackers, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
there's a handful of
They're all
sources.
running queries and
Yeah,
then looking
exactly.
at the responses.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But they're coming from the same sources. Like
Yeah.
there's some massive data aggregators that are providing that data for sale. Anybody can get that. It's the interface and what they do with the data that at the end of the day kind of differentiates them,
Yeah.
to a point, right? Because
Mhm.
it's at the end of the day the same. But I think one thing that good that came out of this is user intent right now is a lot more of focus. I think
Mm.
that's been a game changer, especially content at scale. Concept. It's like, oh, have as much content as you want. Write a blog a day. Like having like so much content on a website, diluting that equity.
Mhm.
That you have that voice that is, and we see that with Google's new updates too. They have been penalizing websites that have a lot of content without intent, right?
Mhm.
And especially in the YMYL space, right? Which makes all the sense, right? If you're a health care product or a website and you have relevant information, if you're a financial institution, and you just have so much content on there, like users just they're just bombarded by what to and makes it harder for Google as well. It's like, hey, you got a blog that was written 2 years ago about the same thing. Sure, it's updated, but then what happens to the other one, right? So which I think is good because now
Mhm.
people will create better content, with intent in mind.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have no idea about this as well. Like I've been very vocal about this, as like forget having tons of content, have the right content, make sure it's there, and then working backwards, like from prompts. I think, as you said, that there's so many queries that you show up for that you normally wouldn't even think about, right? That I think is interesting. You could have a lot of fun with that and get
Mhm.
super creative. But yeah, no, that was a good observation, and I wanted to get your take on that because I mean, we're both in the same space, but you're doing something, we're doing something. It's related, but to your point, I think fundamentals are important. I think people should not deviate from that, having that, because that's your backbone. If that falters, then you could throw a bunch of money at it. It's still not going to fix it. So
Yeah. Two things that I'll just throw out there. One, as far as the data, I think we're going to see something interesting happen in the market and I'm guessing it'll happen next year. I could be wrong. So all of the like keyword research that we've traditionally relied on, all of the data for search volume and everything eventually trickles back to Google Ads. It's like pulled from the Google Ads platform for the most part. You know, Ahrefs also has like a web scraper and they try to kind of emulate Google's algorithm and do some things, and SEMrush probably does as well. But like, so many of the keyword research tools we rely on start with Google Ads data, and like the volume and difficulty they give you as part of their ad product. So what happens when ChatGPT releases an ad product, which we are pretty sure is going to happen at some point? Um, will we get some first party data instead of just relying on running queries and seeing what we get back? I think that'll be really interesting. And so I'm really curious to see if that happens next year and what that does. Although to your point about interfaces, like when that data gets rolled out, maybe a couple of players will have it first, but eventually everyone will have it. And so again, it comes down to what do you do with it? Um, how do you present it in a way to make it useful for people? And that's where you'll get your differentiators. Um, And then the other thing I was just gonna say to piggyback on the user intent piece is I also love that AI is pushing us towards a more holistic, like topical approach to creating content. Kevin Indig has written about this some, and Amanda, I'm blanking on Amanda's last name. I feel so bad. Uh, you know, I can't remember if it's more relevant for AI overviews or AI mode, but I think like a natural progression of AI is like trying to take a more holistic understanding of a website and like the entities that a website um, has authority around, and that sometimes means writing content that isn't optimized for search, that isn't going to get searches. There is no search volume for it, but it's helpful for readers once they get to your site, or it fills in a gap in the knowledge system. And so if that creates some pressure to create just more holistic content, and to sometimes just say, I want to write about this, I feel like it would be useful, but there's not search volume for it. If it gives people the leverage to say, okay, well, it's worth writing about because it helps build our topical authority, even if it doesn't directly contribute to searches itself. I think that could be a positive push for the industry. And I feel like that's very tied to what you were saying about user intent. It's like the ideal scenario here is these systems get smarter and sort of push us to just create better content for people.
Yeah, agreed. No,
Mhm.
that was right on the money, and I'm looking forward to it. Um, I love this new innovation. I think it's gonna change a lot. It's already made lives so much easier, right? Albeit the dependency portion of it. I mean, there's still people who are, using the fear mongering. I think there was somebody was telling me, I haven't um, seen the podcast yet, but I think Elon Musk was on Joe Rogan and said that AI is going to replace all jobs, which sure,
We'll see.
yeah,
Maybe.
but it's
25-25.
yes. What was that?
um,
I was watching this movie with my kids, Wally.
mhm.
Remember that? Remember the movie where
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
everybody's all connected and says like, oh yeah. So I hope
It
not.
starts to feel less
More.
funny and a little
Yeah,
more eerie.
Yeah.
yeah,
We're all gelatinous in our hover chairs.
yeah. Hopefully, not my lifetime.
Yeah, hopefully not. Yeah, it's funny. Like I also just find the technology fascinating and really fun to work with. Although at the same time, often infuriating to work with.
Mm.
Um, I tend to think I'm terrible at predicting the future. Despite working in tech for my whole career, I'm just so bad at it. I think most people are. Um, and but I will say I tend to be less worried that AI is going to take over the world in our lifetimes than most people are. Um, right now the technology is basically just it's one piece of like reasoning and understanding. It's like it's the language piece, and it's pretty good at that. Although it's still very much guessing and just feeling its way through the world. Um, I think it's going to take another technological kind of leap to really get to something that is closer, not even necessarily there, but closer to our sense of sentience.
Mhm.
And to nerd out for a second, one of the interesting things about this space, do y'all know the Turing test?
Yeah.
Yeah. The Turing test we've blown past. And yet we're all pretty
Mhm.
sure we're like, yeah, okay, wait, this is an AGI. This is not true intelligence, true sentience. For listeners who don't know, the Turing test is like a test to determine when AI has like arrived, when it's become intelligent truly. And the test is if I'm simplifying here, but essentially you feed AI generated text to or voice or whatever content to humans, and if they can't tell what's AI and what's not, then then you've achieved artificial general intelligence. Well, we've gotten there. That's for sure. We're passing the Turing test, but we're all pretty much in agreement that we haven't, achieved AGI, artificial general intelligence. And so, you know, we need new tests. We need new ideas.
Yeah, and I almost think with the Turing test, it was, I guess, kind of simplified, I guess you could say, like a simple version of it. And then as we got exposed to more AI and seeing what ChatGPT can do, the level of scrutiny has also drastically increased. So we can look at something and think, oh, I don't know, feels like it was written by AI. And you can't really pinpoint it, but there's something there. And you could be right, you could be wrong, but there's still that inkling of doubt. And I don't know, maybe we'll get better with more exposure.
Yeah. Have you seen all of the that's a whole nother market that's emerged, the AI detectors. Hrefs has their AI detection algorithm, and like a bunch of people have from tools for teachers to detect AI use in essays to all these things. And the overwhelming consensus seems to be that they're all not very good. They all struggle to, like, even the Hrefs people say, don't take the numbers to heart, just take them as like kind of a directional indicator. Like, if the number's 90%, it's probably some AI. If the number's 0%, it's probably no AI. If it's somewhere in the middle, it's probably a mix. But
So
like,
it really struggles at detecting AI.
yeah,
So,
no
okay.
one has built tools that are great at detecting AI.
Mhm.
They're like, they get the job done, but they're not. None of them are all that reliable, which is kind of fascinating in and of itself. I don't mean to take us down a tangent away from SEO, but yeah.
no,
No,
I mean,
we can do that.
yeah,
We're allowed to.
it's great about this podcast, which is what you see. Like, remember when ChatGPT and all these content writing tools were coming about, and then you had all these detection tools, right?
Mhm.
That were there, and it's because we use a lot of them, right? Because we are generating thousands of pieces of content a month, right? So our customers were like, "Oh, I went in through this tool, and it came out as AI," and then I was, so we would send them, 15 reports of different tools that would tell you different things,
Mhm.
and it's again, to your point, we have yet to find a tool that would do that. But I was gonna nerd out as well, but there was a movie called, I don't know if you've seen it. It's called Pi. It's a
No, I haven't
Darnanovsky
seen that
movie.
one.
Oh.
It's an old movie that it's his first one that um, kind of made it, right.
Mhm.
And it's about about a mathematician who makes a supercomputer.
Mhm.
Um, um, there was religious context in there, like he was trying to find out the meaning of the name, uh, uh, of God's name. So it was like, very interesting movie. But at
It was like math and Kabbalah stuff.
Kabbalah, yeah,
Philosophy and
yeah, yeah.
yeah, cool.
But at the end of it, the um the computer, it becomes, like it was able to do that, and it
Mhm.
ended up creating inorganic matter, right?
Hmm.
So and it just made me think of that, and like how when AI gets to that point, right? It's
Yeah.
but it's a thought. So yeah,
And
we'll
that's the
see.
thing it'll like, I feel like it'll, whenever it does happen, it'll sneak up on us,
Oh,
because it's just, human brains are bad at understanding exponential growth, um, which I think we're in the middle of right now, but I can't always tell.
yeah. Well, it's acceptance too. I mean, I was reading a couple of I read a lot of science journals, and so there was a somebody made a post, and the editor of that magazine had to kind of answer it. So apparently, um, NASA is not releasing data, um, uh, a particular asteroid or a comet that's in our system right now that's interstellar, and it's moving exceptionally fast, for that, and they're like, oh, they're not releasing data because they don't want us to know.
Great.
Mhm.
Yeah, like it's a spaceship,
Oh, I was thinking like collision.
Or,
You know,
or that too, but he was
T-
more
tell us there's an impact without telling us there's
yeah,
an impact.
but they're like, no, they're not doing it because they don't have funding. It takes resources to release that data, so it's a government agency. That's why it's not doing that,
Yeah.
guys. I said, stop scaring people.
It's
So
effective.
much. Yeah. I always struggle to believe conspiracy theories because I
Mhm.
think that like so often it just comes down to like boring bureaucracy or like incompetence. Like it's you know it's hard, like nothing stays secret for that long, so
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm always
but
skeptical.
that too, and then people don't realize that you can basically prove anything with statistics. Um, but then you can also disprove it too, right? The statistics mean nothing. It's the perception of the numbers and how you're presenting it that would make one believe something is true or not, or making it a point, which is you know I don't know. I think uh,
Yeah.
we're totally learning out that going on. But tell us a bit more about the tool. I was super interested in when you were describing it, and
Mhm.
how far along are you? Um,
We're still pretty early stages, so the tool is publicly available. Anyone can sign up. You get 500 credits for free, and you can crawl one site. So the way it works is you start with a site crawl, kind of like Screaming Frog or something, right? And so you come in, you crawl your site, and we do a couple of things. We extract some common elements, headers, images, links, metadata, that sort of stuff. But then we also do a couple of things to make it easier to work with your data with AI agents. So this is getting into the weeds. Tell me if this is too in the details, but
no, we need to know.
um,
Yeah, absolutely. Tell us everything.
yeah. So um, we convert all of your page content to Markdown. Is one of the first things we do, and this is because it's easier for AI to work with Markdown. And so when we're running prompts, when we're doing things like we want to analyze the page content to generate structured schema, like contextual structured schema, or generate an accurate page title or something like this. Um, it's helpful to have a markdown version of all of your content. Basically, HTML is noisier. All the code, all the tags, just create kind of noise, if you will. And so Markdown is a little bit cleaner, easier to work with. So we generate Markdown, and then we generate vector embeddings. If y'all are familiar with that world, Screaming Frog uses vector embeddings to do like content similarity and content clustering. And so we use them to do content clustering, and then also to do semantic search, which is basically like find things that are kind of like this thing. And that's having that semantic search ability again makes it easier for agents to do complex tasks like um, look for internal link opportunities, content clustering, content gap analysis, some of these things. So we crawl your site, then we get the page content all ready to work with. And then we give you a library of prompt templates so that you can click a couple of buttons and then run sort of page by page or row by row different prompts. So the prompts might be generate new page titles with the right keyword and whatever. Generate structured schema, again, internal links, all these things that I've been talking about. All these workflows boil down to, we call them prompt templates. If you guys have better names for this stuff, by the way, it's one of the things I've been struggling with. I'm trying to feel like prompt template is not a good name. We should come up with a cooler name for this. Like the tables too, we just call them tables. I'm like, we got to come up with a power editor. I don't know, something.
Mhm.
Um, but the core of the product is get your page content from your website and then be able to systematically run prompts against that content. And we try to do give you good templates right out of the box so that you don't have to do a bunch of prompt engineering. You can just run it, tweak it a little if you need to, but run it. And so if you think about, if you've ever tried to, let's just use a simple example, generating new page titles. If you've ever tried to generate page titles in ChatGPT or Claude, you're going back and forth between a spreadsheet. You're, copying and pasting. It's a lot of work. These tools are awesome and amazing, but they're not great at like working with large data sets. And so it's easier if you can go kind of one page at a time and keep things scoped down. And so we basically make it easy to do that. And then like on the other end of the spectrum, you have your AirOps and your N8Ns, which are these big, massive, powerful workflow builders that are incredibly cool and can do all sorts of cool things, but are a lot of work to set up. And so we're, again, trying to find that sweet spot where someone can come in, just like Screaming Frog, they can crawl their site. Every SEO knows how to do that. And then they can just click a couple of buttons and start running prompts, across all of their pages or a subset of pages to tackle some of this SEO grunt work that, another thing that I try to use as a guiding light is like, what's the work people don't want to do? Like, what's the work that like humans shouldn't be doing because it's really tedious and boring as hell and like will numb your mind. Like, can we do that work for people? And like sometimes that is content creation. Like, I was working on a site the other day and I needed to create a bunch of pages for integrations and I needed like 30 pages for integrations. And it's like, do I really need a human to sit there and write 30 integration pages that are all super templated and very similar? No. But like, I don't know if we're going to get into writing really detailed research reports, because that's something that, a human should be more involved in. So that's kind of, it's a rambling answer. I need to get better at condensing that down.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if do you have a USB in an elevator pitch? So like if I were to tell you, hey, what's your USB? Give it to me. Like,
Yeah. I would say, our like unique value prop is the ability to use AI at scale across your site for on-page SEO optimizations while keeping the quality high. I don't know if that's perfect, but that's kind of what I've got right now. And so my elevator pitch would be: MetaMonster is a tool that makes it simple to run SEO automations so that you can scale on-page optimizations without sacrificing quality. We do this by using AI to help you do things like generate page titles, structured schema, internal link suggestions, even content refreshes, and more.
interesting. If
But
you're
give
up
me your
for
feedback.
no,
Yeah,
no, no, no.
tear that apart.
Yeah, no. It's right. Every product goes through that, right? So I'm telling you, you're gonna get it. Like one day, it'll just come to you. It's like, oh, this is what it is. It took me 3 years to be able to do what I just asked you to do. So I just did it on a podcast 20 minutes in. So I didn't expect that. So I always approach things like this as a problem solve. Like, this is a very specific problem that I'm solving, and
Mm-hmm.
nobody else can solve this problem like I do, right? That's always it just accomplishes it makes it more personal because it's me,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm directly relating to that, and then I am adding a scale to that, which is, I hate using the word gimmick, right? But that's what it is. It's, you're trying to get people. It's like, wow, 4 more inches, right? So it's that kind of concept. Um, but yeah, I was gonna ask you if you're up for it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I mean, I'd love to see what this looks like. If you have a demo, or if you want to do a
Sure.
live demonstration, yeah. That way our
Yeah.
users can see that as well, and um, and then I can give you feedback.
Okay, cool. Yeah, let's do it. Awesome. Okay. So I'll just share my screen. Let's do this live.
Yeah, I love it.
Let me just close out of a couple things so I don't have unnecessary tabs open. All right. And then let's do, there we go. So this is MetaMonster, and we're working on a bunch of things to try to make the onboarding experience a lot smoother. A friend of mine, Matthew, from the founder of SEO Gets, I don't know if y'all are familiar with that tool. He just gave me some great feedback, just roasted our onboarding and our H1, our homepage. So I've been implementing his feedback as we go. Like I said, MetaMonster starts with a site crawl. So come in here, enter URL, or upload a CSV to crawl just specific pages. I won't crawl a site live because it just takes a second. So let's jump into an older site and I can show you how the tool works. So like I said, once you crawl a site, you land in this table that shows you all of your pages, all of your content. You know, can see things like, page content here. Where did it go? Oh, I just hit it. My bad. So here's that, your page content, all generated, converted to Markdown. Anyway, I'm getting into the weeds. And so then you can start to run prompts against all of this. So start to implement little workflows. So you come over here and you click optimize and you get our library of prompt templates. So we have, content quality analysis, SERP analysis, content refreshes, a bunch of generation stuff. And then, check for keywords in your metadata, query fan out. And so to run one of these, you just click here. You have the option to edit the prompt and change the model. And then you just click run. And this will start to generate. And so what it looks like when it's done is this right here. So, my typical workflow when I'm bringing a new project into MetaMonster, I start by running, identifying the primary keyword. This is interesting because one, it gives you a keyword to use for every page in other prompts that you want to run. It also tells you what the model thought your page was optimized for, which can be kind of telling. If you thought it should be something else, what is the AI indexing on to pull out that keyword? Maybe you've got some work to do to make your keyword more obvious. And I know keywords are losing a little bit of value. Like we're thinking more in terms of queries and longer form stuff, but I still start with the primary keyword. Call me old school. Then I do a check to see, okay, is this keyword in my title? Is it in my meta description? Is it in my H1? Then I can filter down to just the ones where it's missing. I can generate those. I can generate, I'll just stop this here, generate image alt text. So the AI will use the context from your page to understand what the image is about and then generate image alt text for you. Structured schema, like I mentioned. Internal links. So look for, it'll take all those pages and then look for places where you're mentioning keywords, but you aren't linking to anything, and then suggest where you could add an internal link. Want to expand on this over time to, have other linking signals and to be able to suggest rewrites, I think is something we could totally do. So not just you have the exact keyword here, but you're mentioning kind of something related to a topic or a keyword here. We could add a new sentence or rewrite the sentence to be able to suggest an internal link. And then, ran some SERP analysis, and it's here's some content gaps, things you could add here. And we just had our query fan out. So there's a lot you can do with the tool. It's really powerful, really flexible. We also have a chat mode where you can do kind of one-off or site-wide research. So you can have the AI analyze all of your content and generate a voice and tone guide. You can have it, run topic analysis, different things like that. So, yeah, that's the tool as it stands today in a nutshell. And I would say the problem we're trying to solve is really like, if you have a lot of clients you're juggling, you feel overwhelmed with the amount of things to do for them, um, you know, and there's some of that work that is kind of tedious and we can take off your plate. Maybe you're outsourcing it to a VA today. Maybe you're giving it to junior team members. Maybe you're still doing it. We can help you automate that while keeping the quality high, is the goal. And then over time, we want to expand into, keyword research, content creation, and some things like that as well.
Interesting. This is pretty cool, man. I was going to ask you, do you have, you mentioned content clustering, and I'm a big fan of that. I think that's something that a lot of people miss out on. And I think I'd love to see a use case or something that you can kind of show us. That way our
Yeah,
audience
yeah,
has
let's
some
do it.
perspective.
So within the chat, we have a few sort of shortcuts here as well. And one of them, we call it existing topic analysis, which is just basically topic clustering. And so what the agent does when you run this prompt is it's using our cluster analysis tool. So that's using those vector embeddings that we talked about and doing something called cosine similarity. So it's basically generating a similarity score for different pages within clusters and grouping pages together. It's all doing this in the background. Eventually, we will probably add some sort of visualization so you can see those clusters visually, like Screaming Frog has in their tool. And so what it's doing is it always runs twice. It does one just general, and then it does another where it kind of removes some of the cruft, some of the little details. And then the agent has the ability to create CSVs. And so what it's going to do is it'll create a CSV file with the topic clusters and some analysis. So here we go. So we have SEO prompts, AI search optimization, um, AI search optimization, tool comparisons, and alternatives. And this is just a starting point. I might tell it something like, hey, cool, I consider this less of a topic. Tool comparisons and alternatives, maybe I consider less of a topic and more of a content type. So I can work with the agent going back and forth and refine this topic clustering from here. It'll also give you next steps. So it'll build sort of pillar page outlines, create a strategy brief, or try to do some internal linking opportunities. Most often I'll like run this and then I'll do a little bit of refinement. So I think I was working on, let's see if I've still got it here. Let's go. Here we go. We're gonna scroll all the way to the top here. So this might not be the right one. I think, yeah. So here I gave it some additional context and gave it some of the topics I wanted it to include. And then I started working with it from there to build subtopics, and then build content suggestions, and things, and eventually turned that into a list of keywords. Did some keyword researching and ideation, brainstorming, if you will.
This is really interesting. Nicely done, man. Could you, if you don't mind, telling our audience what the concept of content clustering and silos is, so that they know the use case for this for them?
Yeah, and you guys are the SEO pros here, so fill in my knowledge gaps for me. But my understanding is, that as Google and other search platforms have evolved, they've moved beyond just looking at your site as a list of pages and keywords for each of those pages, and started to look more um, at topical authority. And the way they do that is they, sort of look at the primary topics, the entities or topics that your site is built around, that show up in your content consistently. And that's often done through some form of clustering. And so when you do clustering, you're basically turning your written content into some form of a similarity score, and you're looking at like how close different things are. And so, one of the famous examples that we've seen in the last year is, HubSpot was writing all sorts of content across like just a million different topics. And that worked for a long time because they would just write about anything that would get traffic, and they would get traffic, and some tiny percentage of that traffic might convert to HubSpot trials. And then Google started to kind of crack down on that approach and say, you're writing about so many things, we can't really tell like what you should be known for, like what you really have authority around. And so HubSpot saw a massive drop off in traffic. And so the general wisdom, my understanding is today, that it's better to pick a small subset of topics and build deep authority around those topics. And clustering can be a way to kind of understand, what topics do we have well represented? What content is kind of on the fringes that maybe isn't contributing to one of our core topics and may even be detracting from our overall topical authority. And then where do we have gaps that we can fill in with more information? And I'm moving my hands around a lot because the way this is often visualized is you have a graph, and you have every piece of content show up as a dot on the graph, and these clusters get highlighted with colors. And that's like a way to visualize what the computer is doing when it's creating these similarity scores and comparing content to each other. How'd I do, Naveed? What would you add to that or change?
I think the only thing that I would tell you is on when you're displaying your results and your crawls and
Mm-hmm.
stuff, always you're using the same color, which like I'm a stickler for having everything nice and simple, but always have the meaningful stuff, which are your action items. Or something, for example, let's say you're one of the crawls that you did, uh, if it's a recommendation, or oh, here's something that should be replacing X, you should always either have it a different color, or maybe bold it out, or present in a way where it makes it easy. Because a lot of people, they don't read the whole thing, right? They will look
Mm-hmm.
at the action items, right? So if it's easy for them to identify where they are, it makes it a lot easier in terms of from a user experience standpoint, um, um, and would make their job a lot faster, right? So it could, gets they can get to the meat of it,
Yeah.
especially when they're doing, because imagine somebody's using your product, they're working with a lot of volume, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they need to be fast. So if that alone, I think, would be a game changer in the interface and the experience out of it as well.
Yeah.
That was the only feedback that I had.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. We sort of started from a place of like being relatively opinionated and trying to get a lot of the tooling and infrastructure there so that you can, do these optimizations. The missing piece, well, one of the missing pieces right now is getting more opinionated, providing recommendations, and we're thinking about doing that in a couple ways. One, when you first crawl a site, giving you, hey, here's a couple of workflows to start with, click a couple buttons and start analyzing, optimizing things, and then eventually having some more summary reporting kind of stuff where we can show you like, hey, here's some things we found that you might want to start with. Here's some things over here that could be good to look at next, and getting into that more of the visualization and recommendations, moving beyond, right now we're basically a spreadsheet with superpowers. So, yeah.
No, I think it's a lot more intricate than that. Um, it's yeah. I mean, I think like if you move the action items in a, whether it's recommendations or whatever, however you want to call it, if it's action items, they're in a different tab where
Mhm.
everything is just aggregated like in one nice spot where just check off the list and just move on to the next one. I think would help your users quite a lot. And then maybe what we can do is, and we'll talk about this offline. So
Sure.
we'll talk about how we can maybe do a real time, you know, demonstration, mm, as well, like walking through the whole tool in a go. That way, that would give somebody. Maybe we can have one of our users, you know, volunteer their site, and then we can use that. That'll
Yeah,
be
that would be
super
awesome. That would be a blast. Love to
Guinea
do that.
pigs. Mm. And I particularly like the chat agent feature of
Mhm.
it, where it's kind of walks you through it, gives you insight, and then you can also tailor things. So there's still like a human element. It's not like just a black box, do this thing. If you feel like you're a part of the process, even though the grunt work, as you say, is being taken care of.
Yeah. Yeah, more and more I found myself enjoying using the chat. Um, and one of the things I'm excited for is when the chat can start to run optimizations in the table and you can ping pong back and forth between the two, tell your agent to do something and then it shows up in your table and then you can sort of, you know, click open a page and see, the results and then, give it some feedback and go back and forth a little bit more. I think will open up some cool new opportunities that could be fun.
So I came across this quote. I think it was in MetaMonster on looks like a blog. I don't remember which one, but at MetaMonster, we fundamentally believe that the best uses for AI are getting humans unstuck and freeing us up to do more creative, meaningful work, not less. I wholeheartedly agree with that. Um, because like why have a tool that can do these things and not do things that are creative and meaningful? But then it made me gave me a thought. What are some of the worst uses for AI? Like if this is like the best use for AI, what's the worst? Like in your opinion?
Oh man, some of the like Sora stuff is it's fun to stick my dad's face into a movie, like that's silly and fun and I'm like totally cool with that. But like as far as like sitting down and watching a movie totally created in Sora, like do I want to do that? Like um do I want I, my hope is that this and it's so funny because I'm like both deep neck deep in AI and also like still very pro human.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I'm literally building an SEO automation tool and yet I like don't want to replace people. It's a constant balancing act. Um, but like, you know, I love photography. I minored in photography in college. I loved spending time in the darkroom. I would go into the darkroom and just put headphones in, and time would disappear. And so, I mean, I think a lot of it is like the art, right? Like, I hope that AI will free us up to spend more time making art and not just make the art for us while we spend all our time, uh, you know, in spreadsheets and doing laundry. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I I use AI to help me write. I have ADHD and it's been a massive unlock for me when I'm like working on a blog post or something to get to a shitty rough draft fast. But I
Mm-hmm.
still spend a lot of time editing and try to apply a lot of craft in the editing. And I'm selective about when I use AI to write. If I'm writing a blog post for my personal blog where I'm really talking about my personal experiences or something like very meaningful to me, I still want that rough draft to come out of me. Versus if I'm writing a piece of marketing content where I need to, cover some information and I can kind of dictate that information to Claude and then have it generate a rough draft and then I can just edit it. That I want to do all day. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot of the creativity, the soul. And my hope is that AI will create more desire for handmade, human made things, not less. That it'll push us to want things that are imperfect, but imperfect in a human way, not in an algorithmic hallucination way.
Mhm.
Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah. I think I'm of that same vein. Because like AI generated video and like photographs, they're fun. They can be fun. They can be interesting. But I don't know. It's something with like AI just can't get hands right, so the hands are always funky, and it's trying. And at the end of the day, when you see a bunch of AI slop, you're kind of like, you don't feel like you get anything really out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think something that's really important when it comes to anything that's artistic or creative in nature, you have to get something from it. It's supposed to feed your soul. And I think AI generated stuff tends to just stimulate the eyeballs and not necessarily give you any sustenance for your spirit, if you will.
Yeah. We've resisted adding like content creation workflows into MetaMonster for a while. Like a lot of the competitors that are gaining a lot of traction really fast are these kind of like they're advertised as just an SEO easy button. It's just a single, you just set it and forget it and it'll churn out blog posts for you and you barely have to edit them and you just publish them, whatever. We've really tried to resist that because I just like it would hurt my soul to just build an AI slop engine. Like that's just not what I want to do. And I've come around on this a little bit because AI created content has gotten fundamentally better and there is a place for it. I think, again, not all content creation is soul nurturing. When I
Mhm.
have to create 30 integration pages, like those need to be created. They're helpful for my users. My users want to have detailed information on all of our integrations and how they work. But like, does it feed my soul to be sitting there writing integration pages? No. And so like, I think we will eventually allow some amount of content creation in MetaMonster and build workflows for that.
Mhm.
Um, and yet I've tossed around the idea of if you remember the Marauders map from Harry Potter, like
Mhm.
I solemnly swear I'm up to no good. I want kind of the reverse. I'm gonna add a checkbox to the MetaMonster sign up that says I solemnly swear I will not create AI slop. Because it just oh man, I don't want that to be my legacy in the world. That I just made it easier for people to yeah just put a bunch of slop into the world. But again like not all content creation that's necessary, valuable, and user friendly is also like, enriching to create, fulfilling
Yeah.
to create.
Yeah,
Um,
I came across this video on YouTube where um, I forget exactly what the topic was, but it was just very technical in nature. It was I'm there for the information,
mhm,
and kind of had it playing in the background. And the host of it said, "Hi, this is so and so's clone. I'm going to talk to you about this, this, and that." And when the second time he said so and so's clone, I looked over at it and I'm like, that's an avatar. And like I pick it up because I it went from one of his videos where he was actually in it, and then another
mhm,
one where it was an AI generated avatar, and it was quite good.
mhm,
They've come a long way, and then there are different ones that perform better than others, and I was fine with it because I'm here for the information, not necessarily for this man's charming personality. But it came through it when he was saying that he was his clone. That's sort of like you're having fun with this, that it's an avatar, that this is not actually you, and you're not I guess not trying to fool anybody, because I feel like with the AI generated avatars, you're trying to be as human as possible. And whenever I've tinkered with them, it's just like, it's not quite right. Not quite right. How can I fix it? How can I make it look better? What can I do in the training data for the video that'll make it perform better? You can make it perform better, but then it seems less human now. So it's goofy. It's weird. But like with the but I think if the point is just passing along information and the medium you've chosen is a video, sure, it's fine. But if you're trying to be creative with it, and it's doing two very different things. So I feel like AI video and stuff that's generated, it does have a place, but I don't think it's going to replace like cinema.
Yeah. I'll give like two examples on opposite ends of the spectrum that I've come across recently. So similar to like what you're talking about on the AI generated side, a friend, I think it was someone explaining like complex programming concepts, and they just had like, it was something really bizarre, like uh an AI generated video of like Homer Simpson playing Mario Kart or something, like some just like bizarro world, like just slop.
Yeah.
But it was almost like to the point that it was like ironically sloppy. It was like comically sloppy.
Okay.
While a human was narrating like programming concepts over it or something like that. Um, and like my friend was like, yeah, for whatever reason, the concepts stick better in my head when I can just like watch this stupid, like silly video. But then on the other end of the spectrum, so it's like, yeah, maybe there's a place for it. I just found this guy, James Hoffman. Are y'all coffee people at all?
I like drinking coffee.
Yes.
I do drink coffee.
So this guy is like the ultimate coffee nerd. I was looking to improve my coffee setup, and my friend sent me this guy's videos. And on the one hand, you think that these videos are just purely informational, like he's telling you how to brew coffee well and going over different types of coffee gear and all of that. But I found myself just watching them because I liked him. And I was just like, this charming British man is so soothing to have on. And like, I don't care what he's talking about. I just want to listen to this guy talk.
Yeah.
And that's the piece that like is just totally missing from the effective Homer slop video. But like, it doesn't have that sense of connection and that charm. And so I think that, um, people should not be afraid to use AI, but also not become so reliant on it that you miss the opportunities to inject charm and personality. And that if anything, those are going to become more valuable and more, you know, putting in the work to create something by hand will just differentiate you more.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
using AI for with SEO, for SEO and helping SEO and stuff. I think it's and I say this to a lot of people who are looking for like career changes and stuff that come to me for advice and what have you. And I hate saying this to them, but I tell them, look, SEO is never. It's always been hard. Right? It's a very hard thing to do. So if you're doing a career change, keep that in mind that it's brutal. You have to really put the work in, and your knowledge graph, it's never ending. The coordinates are just it's always there, and there's always something more to learn. And it's a very risky proposition, because if you mess up, then the recovery is very hard. very difficult, right? So and then what part of SEO do you do as well? That makes another, another thing. Like, do you have specialization in one thing or the other? So so I think like AI has made SEO even more harder because you have to be more careful, you have to be more practical about it. Yeah, it makes it to do certain things makes it easier, but again, the fundamentals are there, right? AI can optimize. It'll tell you what to do, but at the end of the day, somebody has to clean up that code. Somebody has to, fix XYZ thing to make it work. Somebody still has to do the strategy, and and the risks are always there, right? They're never gonna go away.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was so funny. I had one in BrightonSEO. This young girl, she came up to me and said like, she was looking for a career change from education to SEO, and I was like, you think teaching middle schoolers was hard, or college students? It's, SEO is, it's tough. It's rewarding. Is what's great is that if you the gratification that you get out of it, it's very fulfilling.
I don't know,
Um,
man. I think middle schoolers are mean. I
yeah.
I think I'd rather do SEO than teach middle school. That sounds.
Well, yeah. I mean, like I said, to each their own, right? But
Yeah.
it's from a consumption point of view, I'm not your average consumer as well. I don't have social media. I've never had social media, right? I get the only social media I have is YouTube, and my feeds motorcycles and watches, right? And that's all I do because those are the two things that I like. So I'm looking at motorcycle videos, and I'm looking at this one guy spending an hour trying to fix a watch, and it's just playing in the background, right? So so my use of AI, ChatGPT, all these engines is very different, right? It's very specific to what I'm trying to do, and it typically relates to that. Or I use it for travel quite a lot, like to make recommendations or like look up something quick. If I'm being lazy, like I love looking at maps. I love like making an itinerary, and I have uh, uh, three kids, right? So when me and my wife we are traveling with the family, I want to make sure that I'm optimizing our thing. ChatGPT is perfect for that, right? All these AI engines, they're fantastic. So it's um, you know, I'm excited with what's going on, but again, it's slop at the end of the day is there. It's always going to be there. It's never gone away, and it's entertaining to a point, Um, but I think it should come with some pretext, like, oh, this is garbage. That's in front of you, and you should take it for what it is, I would say.
Yeah.
But
We spend a lot of time with MetaMonster as we build it, trying to think about where the human element fits in.
mhm.
And again, it may seem weird because we're building an automation tool. And so you think automation, you think replace humans, you know.
Yeah,
But again, like I try to look at it as replace the work that humans are bad at or shouldn't be doing or just don't want to do. And then, you know, but find the right touch points where you still need the human and make it easy for them to come in and be involved in that part of the process. And then, um, but just take the rest of the stuff off their plates. And I don't think we've got it solved yet. But yeah, I look at, what we're trying to do as, um, you know, giving people new capabilities and, um, amplifying what people can do, not, um, replacing them whole cloth.
yeah. No, I think you guys are on the right track. I think you have something really cool and useful, and I'm looking forward to the the progression and the evolution of this tool that you made, and wishing you all the luck for it, because um um it's again a very difficult thing to do, right? Build something, stick to it, and then constantly trying to improve it. It's not everybody's cup of tea. People don't realize the amount of work that goes into making something like this, and having people use it, right? And when as you're gonna grow, it's gonna the pains that come from it as well. That those are you can write a book on that.
Yeah, sometimes, and plenty of people have.
Yeah.
I feel like Sisyphus most days, where I'm just pushing a boulder up a hill and it's one step forward, two steps back. But yeah, we're making progress bit by bit, and getting feedback from folks like you who really know their stuff when it comes to SEO is the most helpful thing right now. So always looking for more people to just try it out and give us their honest thoughts and tell us what we can do to be better.
What was the hardest feature to build, would you say?
So interesting. So I have a co-founder who does all of the technical development. So my focus is more on the growth and marketing side of the business, and then his focus is product development. We started off trying to build our own crawler, which was a mistake. Building a crawler is a nightmare. It's just like you're playing whack-a-mole. You really, really get intimate with all the different weird ways people have their websites configured and all the different intricacies to website hosting and serving content and all this stuff when you try to build a crawler. So we still have some custom logic built around the crawler, but we now use a crawler called FireCrawl under the hood, and so they do a lot of the nitty gritty crawling details, handle a lot of that stuff for us. So like in a sense, that was one of the hardest features to build, and yet we kind of ripped it out and made it easier eventually. And then the other thing I think that took some time, we started off with a tool that looked a little bit more like Naveed, what I think you had in mind and what you were suggesting. So when we first launched the tool, all we focused on was page titles and meta descriptions, because we just wanted to kind of prove that, okay, we can create high quality metadata with AI. Like, let's just get something simple. What's something simple we could take off of SEO's plates and handle? And so we launched that back in like January, February, at least sort of a beta version, and then launched it more fully in April. And it was like, you crawled your site, you saw like, hey, here's how many page titles are missing. Here's how many are too long, too short, which doesn't really necessarily matter that much these days. And then we were like, okay, we've proven that this can work. Now, how do we expand it? Where do we go from here? And we ended up basically rebuilding the underlying data model to allow us to create prompt templates instead of this like black box, click a button, generate meta descriptions. And that restructuring, where we thought of things more as, a flexible spreadsheet of data, and that data may be page content, it may be something else, and then you can run a prompt against that data. Like that all of that work was a big lift. And then there's a lot of AI engineering under the hood to like create the tools, because basically you've got a spreadsheet or a database, you've got these agents that can run these tasks, these prompts, and in order to run those, they need to access to tools. And so, yeah, getting all the pieces to work well together was challenging. And I think now the thing is like, how do we take this and make it easier? I think that's the thing that we're trying to figure out now, is how do we give people intelligent recommendations and give people that like click, click, click. Okay, now I need to give the AI a little more context here. I need to contribute a little bit here. And then I want it to go off and do its work, and balancing all of that. I know that's not one answer. That's kind of four. But yeah, it's been an interesting journey for sure.
Awesome.
Okay. So I came across Disco Shrimp and Crit. I love that name, Disco Shrimp. um, tell us about that.
Yeah. So I mentioned earlier that I started my career in the agency world, but running a product design agency, not an SEO agency. So while I was still in college, two friends and I started an agency called Crit, doing software design and development for clients, and we eventually niched down and focused on product design specifically for cybersecurity startups, and ended up selling that business in an acqui-hire. So we were acquired by one of our biggest clients. They brought the team in-house to come and work for them. I lasted about 10 months before I got fired. It turns out I am a shitty employee. I am whatever is broken inside me that makes me be an entrepreneur. I've got one choice. It's entrepreneur or nothing. But after I sold Crit to Grey Noise, the company that bought us, I like couldn't let go of that ownership mentality, that like entrepreneurial urge. I knew I was going to want to start something again someday. And so I was like, all right, I sold my business. I no longer have that. I'm going to go be an employee for a little while, but I'm going to spin up a little LLC so that I've got it ready when I want to do the next thing. And the story behind the name is that my my uncle in the 70s, I think, there was a shrimp shortage in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, where he grew up, where he and my dad grew up. And he and a friend, everyone's got that kind of schemer uncle who's always going off and doing things. Uncle Tim is my schemer uncle.
Okay.
He's had several businesses throughout his life, some of them very successful, some of them less so. And so there was a shrimp shortage in South Carolina in the 70s, and he and a friend rented a refrigerated truck, drove down to Florida, to the Panhandle, bought as much shrimp as they could fit in the truck, and then drove back with the intention of like playing shrimp arbitrage, trying to sell these shrimp. And they did it under the name the Disco Shrimp Company, because this is like peak 70s, right? The funny part is, I later found out after naming this LLC the Disco Shrimp Company, like I'd heard that story when I was a kid, and I just thought that was the coolest name. And so I was like, if I'm ever going to have like a little holding company for my projects, I want to call it the Disco Shrimp Company.
Yeah.
And that year, after I created the LLC, I gave my uncle business cards that said Advisor Disco Shrimp Company, as a way of telling him that I was keeping the name alive. And only after giving him the business cards did I find out the Disco Shrimp Company was one of his failures. By the time they got back from Florida, the shrimp shortage was over. The shrimp had just come late that season for whatever reason. So they get back from Florida with a truck full of shrimp, only to find everyone has as much shrimp as they can handle. There's no need for more shrimp.
Wow.
And so they ended up getting rid of it by they bought a bunch of kegs and borrowed a friend's house or something like that, and threw for 5 days in a row through all you can eat shrimp parties where you'd come in, you'd pay like $25 or $50 or something to get in the door, and then it was just all you can drink, all you can eat. And they had to, I think they took a loss on the shrimp still, but yeah, so that's the genesis of the Disco Shrimp Company. And it is now my personal LLC, where I do my consulting and hold any of my other projects. MetaMonster is a separate entity, but yeah, that's my agency background and the genesis of the Disco Shrimp Company.
I think that's how we're going to credit you.
Yeah, and for the record, you do not sell shrimp.
I do not, unfortunately. Although one of my best friends in Charleston has for years been trying to convince me to revive the original Disco Shrimp Company and get out of tech and sell shrimp. And to be honest, there are some days where I'm like, that doesn't sound so bad. That sounds kind of nice.
Disco shrimp classic.
I mean, I see this as a very hip restaurant. Come in, we make shrimp 20 ways, and you can disco out. Yeah,
I love it.
It's awesome.
Yeah. So just looking at all that stuff, it just you seem like a very busy guy. So like when you're not building up companies or creating AI tools, what do you do in your downtime? I think you mentioned photography. What else do you do?
Yeah, I've been trying to get back into photography. I put my camera down for a while, and I've been trying to get back into it. I love to mix cocktails. I'm a big cocktail nerd. So I, can make most of the classic cocktails. Try to keep my bar stocked so that when people come over, I can make them kind of anything they ask for. I love when friends just say, make me something, like, and I'll ask, okay, give me a spirit and a flavor that you like, and I'll just come up with something for them. So I love to mix cocktails. I also love to spend time outdoors. So I try to get away from computers, away from AI. I love to backpack and hike and rock climb and camp and just unplug whenever I have the chance to. I am currently nursing a fractured ankle because I tried to get back into the rock climbing gym after a year, and within 4 climbs fell and and fractured my ankle. So it'll be a little while before I can hike and climb again. But I am itching to get back outside as soon as I can. So hopefully soon.
Well, you can ramp up those cocktail skills.
Yes. Yeah. Gotta numb the pain somehow, right?
Yeah. Any favorites? Something you recommend? Maybe share a recipe.
Oh, okay. So, do you like bitter flavors? Am I recommending something for you, or am I just?
No, just general audience. Yeah, everybody likes.
Yeah. Okay. So, not necessarily something everybody likes, but an under the radar. Okay, here we go. Pivoting mid sentence. This is the ADHD brain at work. So a classic cocktail is the Negroni, but it is polarizing. A Negroni is made with Campari, which is this bitter red Amaro, intense. It's like sweet, bitter, a little medicinal. It's one of my all-time favorite cocktails. But some people love it. I would say 60 to 70% of people hate it. It's just like too bitter. But there's a riff on the Negroni that almost everyone I've ever made it for likes. It's called an Enzoni. So the Enzoni is you take the Campari, the gin, but instead of sweet vermouth, which is the third ingredient of the Negroni, you do muddled grapes, lemon juice, and a little bit of simple syrup. And the result is this lighter, much less bitter, like really delicious cocktail. You serve it with a big green grape on a toothpick, and it's like this bright pinkish red color, absolutely delicious. A little like under the radar, not cocktail nerds will know it, but not necessarily going to find it at every bar. But if you see a bar that has it on the menu, try it for sure.
I'll be on the lookout.
Just because cocktails came up, it's not like. Are you familiar with Malört?
Yes. Yeah. I lived in Detroit for 4 years and spent a decent bit of time in Chicago. Are you a Malört fan?
No.
Is
I'm aware of its existence. But it's I mean I've never consumed paint thinner. But I would guess that's what Malört tastes like. Can you, or have you come across anything to where it's like you can make Malört palatable?
I have found some people in the cocktail subreddit where I lurk who have shared Malört cocktails. Some of them are more pranks than they are cocktails, where they're just intentionally bad. This is unrelated, but one of the best cocktail names I've ever seen online was someone made a Baja Blast cocktail called Baja Be Thy Blast. So you get stuff like that that's just wacky. But I have heard a couple people say I'd have to do some research to find
Okay.
like what you'd want to mix it with. But I've heard some people say you can make it palatable. I am skeptical, but always excited to try new things. Even I like to joke I'll try anything twice.
Mhm.
So I'll try to do some research and send you a link if I can find one.
Okay, please do, because I'm curious.
Do you have a bottle of Malört handy?
No. I come across it and I see it and I'm like, oh, Malört. Do you know about that? No. I'm like, oh, okay. One Malört for this guy.
Naveed, have you ever tried Malört?
No, it's
You don't need to.
yeah.
It's a liqueur from made in Chicago, and it's
Ugh.
just like
Oh, no, I'm familiar.
bitter.
I refuse to have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It's
Ugh.
intense. It's it's a trip.
Yeah. It's its own thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, there we go. Always a good conversation, Malört.
Yeah.
But jumping back to this, I think we are ready to wrap up, and we'd like to close out our episodes with a shameless plug. Andrew, take it away.
If you are an SEO agency and you feel overwhelmed, you've got more client work than you know what to deal with, and you're looking for ways to get some of the tedious grunt work off your plate, would love for you to try out MetaMonster. You can find us at MetaMonster.ai. And you can sign up for free, crawl a site. Your first 500 credits are on us. Try it out. There's no risk, no credit card required. Would love for you to try it out. Shoot me an email, Andrew at MetaMonster.ai. Happy to hook you up with some extra credits. Would love some feedback. Yeah, we're just an early stage startup trying to find our footing. We've got a handful of customers who are using the tool and liking it and trying to find the next few. So please, MetaMonster.ai, try it out for free and let me know what you think.
Wonderful. Andrew, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you guys so much for having me. This was so much fun. Had a blast.
Wonderful. And thank you all for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye.